Rain slicks the asphalt until the road shines like black glass, reflecting a single flickering streetlight that hasn't worked right in years. This Pacific Northwest small town doesn't announce itself with a sign. You feel it first, in the way the fog refuses to lift, and how the pine trees crowd closer than they should. Somewhere beyond the damp wooden houses, the ocean breathes slow and heavy, like it's listening. Locals don't talk much here. They nod, they look away, and they lock their doors before night settles in. Every place has a past, but some towns carry theirs like a weight in the soil. This is a hidden Pacific Northwest story shaped by rain, silence, and things that never quite stayed buried. If you listen closely, the town starts telling you everything it tried to forget. Before we go any deeper, settle in. Stories like these work better when you stay with them. If the quiet dread feels familiar, tap like, subscribe, or share this with someone who understands why certain places linger in your mind. Trust me, what comes next stays with you. And tell me this. Have you ever passed through a town that felt wrong, even in broad daylight? Morning comes late here, if it comes at all. Even after sunrise, the light struggles to find its way through the fog, caught in the thick needles of towering pines that ring the town like a wall. The air smells of wet wood and cold earth, the kind of smell that settles into your clothes and doesn't leave. Houses sit low and quiet along the road, their paint peeled thin by decades of rain. No curtains move, no radios hum, just the soft hiss of drizzle on rusted gutters. This Pacific Northwest small town was built for logging, back when men came with strong backs and plans to leave once the trees were gone. Most never did. The mills closed, the trucks stopped coming, and time slowed until it felt stuck. People here wake early out of habit, not purpose. They brew coffee, stare through windows clouded with moisture, and wait for something that never quite arrives. Walk down the main road, and you'll notice how everything feels slightly off. The diner opens, but only 2 booths ever fill. The gas station bell rings, but the attendant doesn't look up right away. Conversations stay shallow. Names aren't offered. Outsiders are rare, and when they appear, eyes follow them longer than polite. There's a reason for that. Towns like this learn silence the way children learn language, early and for survival. Something happened here years ago, something that rearranged the way people looked at one another. The details blur depending on who you ask, but the unease never changes. It hangs between buildings, rides the mist, settles heavy on your chest. By noon, the fog thins just enough to show the forest beyond the last row of houses. Dark trunks stand close together, their branches knitting the sky into something smaller. The locals don't go past that line unless they have to. Not anymore. They say the woods carry sound differently. That voices don't echo right. That footsteps don't always belong to who you think they do. Afternoons pass quietly, measured by the drip of rainwater off porch steps and the distant call of crows. Kids used to play in the street once. Now they stay inside, raised on rules no one explains out loud. Be home before dark. Don't wander near the trees. If someone knocks late, don't answer. The older residents remember when the town still laughed. They remember dances at the community hall, bonfires near the shore, the smell of salt mixing with smoke. When asked what changed, they pause. Fingers tighten around coffee mugs. Eyes drift toward windows, toward the forest, toward the road leading out. One woman, gray-haired and sharp-eyed, once said it plain. After that winter, nobody trusted daylight anymore. She wouldn't say which winter, just that it rained for weeks, the river swelled, and something was pulled out of the water that shouldn't have been there. Official reports called it a misunderstanding. The town didn't correct them. As evening creeps in, lights blink on one by one. Yellow bulbs glow weak against the blue-gray dusk. Doors lock early. Dogs bark without clear reason. From the edge of town, the forest exhales, a low sound, almost like breath through teeth. If you stand still long enough, you start to notice how the town listens. Every creak, every step on wet gravel, every engine that slows instead of passing through. This is how the town learned to never fully wake up. Alert, but exhausted. Alive, but careful. It survives by remembering what not to talk about, by pretending the past stayed where it belonged. But places don't forget the way people hope they will. The ground remembers weight. Wood remembers hands. Water remembers everything it touches. And in this town, the silence isn't peace. It's a warning, passed quietly from one generation to the next. Somewhere tonight, Someone will stand at a window and feel it again. That sense that the town is watching itself, waiting for what it knows always comes back. The rain here doesn't fall so much as it settles. It seeps into everything: roof beams, jacket seams, the quiet spaces between thoughts. That winter, it rained without pause. Not the loud kind that drums on metal, but a steady, patient drizzle that blurred the edges of the town day after day. Streets flooded just enough to be inconvenient. The river crept past its markers, slow and brown, carrying branches, scraps of bark, things pulled loose from upstream. People noticed small changes first. Mail stopped arriving on time. The power flickered at odd hours. A smell rose from the riverbank, sharp and unfamiliar, like iron mixed with rot. Folks blamed the weather. They always did. In the Pacific Northwest, rain explains most things. Then came the night the sirens cut through the fog. It was late, past the hour when even the diner lights went dark. A single patrol car rolled toward the bridge, tires hissing on wet pavement. A few porch lights snapped on. Curtains shifted. Nobody went outside. They listened instead. Doors stayed closed as the river surged beneath the wooden planks, swollen and restless. By morning, the bridge was taped off. The official word traveled fast for a town that hated talking. An accident. Someone slipped. Fell in. Drowned. It happens, they said, especially in weather like this. But the river didn't give up its dead easily, and when it finally did, the story started to unravel. They found the body tangled in driftwood downstream, caught where the current slows before the bend. The rain washed the blood away before anyone could measure it. Still, there were marks that didn't fit. Bruises too deep. Hands scraped raw, like someone had been pulled, not carried. The sheriff kept his voice calm when he spoke to the family, kept his eyes low, signed papers, closed the file. After that, the rain kept coming. People stopped walking near the river. The path grew over with moss, slick and green. Kids were told it was dangerous now, even on dry days. The bridge stayed open, but fewer cars crossed it. Engines slowed. Some drivers crossed themselves without realizing they were doing it. At the grocery store, conversations died when certain names were mentioned. A man who worked at the mill quit without notice. A woman packed her things and left town before spring. No one followed. No one asked why. Silence closed in, thicker than fog. An older fisherman said the river had changed, that it sounded different at night, heavier somehow. He stopped setting his nets. When asked why, he shrugged and said, "Ain't nothing hungry that deep unless it's been taught." By the time the rain finally eased, the damage was done. Mold climbed the walls of empty houses. The forest pressed closer, reclaiming the edges of town. And something else lingered, a sense that the water had seen too much, that it carried memory now. Years later, newcomers would hear the story as a cautionary tale. Slippery bridge, bad weather, tragic mistake. Locals nodded along, letting the lie do its work. Because the truth, whatever it was, felt heavier than the river ever had. Even now, when storms roll in and the rain starts to settle instead of fall, people avoid the bridge. They keep their eyes forward. They drive faster than necessary. Because some stains don't wash away. They soak in, waiting for the next season to rise again. And when the river swells, the town listens, afraid it might speak back. The houses in this town were built close together, as if they were meant to keep each other warm. Thin walls, low ceilings, wood cut from the surrounding forest, still carrying the scent of sap even decades later. When it rains, and it almost always does, the boards swell and creak, sounding like tired joints shifting in the dark. People say you get used to it. You don't. You learn to listen. Every house here has its habits. One door that sticks no matter how hard you sand it. A stair that groans louder than the rest. A window that fogs from the inside, even when the room is cold. These are small things, easy to explain away. But taken together, they form a pattern, like the houses are holding on to something, repeating it night after night. Older residents will tell you the homes remember who lived in them. Not in a ghost story way, more subtle than that. They remember the weight of footsteps, the shape of voices, the way fear settles into a room. Families pass these houses down because selling them feels wrong, because no one from outside wants them, because leaving feels like abandonment and staying feels like penance. On certain nights, usually when the fog presses low and the rain turns to mist, people hear movement where no one should be. Drawers slide, floorboards sigh. A soft knock travels through the wall, not from outside, but from the neighboring house. Neighbors never ask about it. They pretend sleep came easy. One house near the edge of town sits darker than the rest. Its porch sags toward the ground, and the paint has faded to the color of old bone. No one lives there now. No one admits they ever did. Still, lights have been seen inside. Brief, wavering glows like someone carrying a lantern through rooms that should be empty. A man once tried to renovate it. He came from out of state, bought cheap, laughed at the warnings. The first week, he worked late, hauling debris out to his truck under the dim streetlight. By the second week, neighbors noticed his lights stayed on all night. By the third, they were off for good. The house went quiet again. The man left town before dawn, didn't say goodbye. After that, the road beside the house felt narrower. People crossed to the other side without thinking. Dogs pulled hard on their leashes, whining low. From the inside, the house seemed to breathe, walls expanding and contracting with the damp air. Those who grew up here know better than to fight a house that's decided to keep its secrets. They oil hinges, patch cracks, let the past settle where it wants. Because these homes were built with the forest's wood, and the forest remembers everything. At night, when rain taps slow and steady against the windows, families sit quietly in their living rooms, lights low, listening to sounds they don't name. They know the houses are not empty, even when no one is home. They know memory doesn't need a body to move. And somewhere, between the walls and the woods, the town keeps holding its breath, afraid that if it exhales too loudly, the houses might answer back. There is a clear place where the town ends, even though no sign marks it. The pavement thins, gravel replaces asphalt, and the forest steps forward without asking permission. Tall firs and pines rise so close together that daylight struggles to reach the ground. Moss coats everything: rocks, fallen branches, old fence posts, softening edges, swallowing color. The air changes there. Cooler, wetter, heavier, as if breathing takes more effort. Locals call it the forest line, not because it's neat or straight, but because everyone knows when they've reached it. Conversations fade as you approach. Radios click off. Footsteps slow. The trees don't sway much, even in wind. They stand still, listening. Decades ago, people worked these woods. Logging trails cut deep into the hills. Men disappeared into the trees at dawn and came back by dusk, tired but whole. Over time, paths vanished. Roots broke through old routes. What once felt familiar turned inward, closing itself off. Now, the forest feels like something watching its borders. Step past the last house and the silence sharpens. No birds, no insects, just the distant drip of water falling from leaf to leaf. Sound doesn't travel right. A snapped twig echoes too long. Your own breathing sounds foreign. Parents warn children not to cross that line, though they never say why. It's easy to get lost, they'll say. Or, weather turns fast. Both are true. Neither is enough. Sometimes, fog rolls out from between the trees like breath on cold glass. It moves low and slow, curling around ankles, pulling at hems. People standing at the edge swear they hear movement deeper inside, footsteps not matching their own, pacing just out of sight. The forest doesn't rush. It waits. The first disappearance happened years after the river incident, though few connect the two out loud. A teenager went walking just before dusk, said he needed air. He crossed the forest line carrying nothing but a jacket and a phone with low battery. When he didn't return by nightfall, people searched, at first. Flashlights cut weak tunnels through the trees. Voices called his name, swallowed almost immediately. The deeper they went, the more wrong it felt. Compasses spun. Phone signals died. One man claimed he heard someone answering back, but the voice came from the wrong direction. By morning, the search stopped. Officially, it was weather. Unofficially, no one wanted to push farther. The forest had closed. Weeks later, the jacket turned up near the edge, folded neatly on a stump. Clean, dry, as if it had never been worn. No footprints around it. No explanation offered. After that, rules hardened. No walking alone near dusk. No shortcuts through trees. Hunters stopped setting traps deep in the woods. Even animals behaved differently. Deer skirting the tree line. Dogs refusing to track beyond certain points. Some nights, lights flicker between trunks. Not campfires. Not lanterns. Just brief glows, like something testing whether it should come closer. People see them from their windows and pretend they don't. The forest line remains untouched, a boundary respected by fear rather than fences. The town knows better now. The woods don't take often, but when they do, they don't give back what they take. And standing at that edge, with fog creeping forward and silence pressing in, you understand something clearly. The forest isn't lost. You are. In a town this small, news doesn't travel, it settles. It sinks into conversations, into habits, into the way people pause before answering simple questions. Everyone knows who belongs and who doesn't. Everyone knows which topics into conversation. And everyone knows not to ask why. Mornings begin the same way. The same trucks park outside the same houses. The same faces appear at the same counters. People greet each other by first name, sometimes only by a nod. Words are used sparingly here, not out of rudeness, but caution. Talking too much feels like tempting something. There are rules, though no one ever wrote them down. Don't walk alone after dark. Don't linger near the forest line. Don't bring up the river unless you want silence in return. Most important of all, don't push when someone looks away. That's when you stop asking. Children absorb this early. They learn which houses to avoid, which roads feel heavier at night, which adults go quiet when certain names surface. Questions are met with distraction. Finish your food. It's getting late. That's none of our business. Curiosity fades into instinct. At church gatherings and town events, laughter comes easily enough, but it never lasts long. Someone always glances toward the door, toward the windows, toward the trees pressing close beyond the streetlights. The sense of being overheard never leaves. There's comfort in shared silence. It binds people together. If no one says it out loud, then maybe it isn't real. Maybe the past stays put. That's the unspoken agreement. And for a long time, it works. Until someone breaks it. It usually starts with a newcomer. Someone who hasn't learned the weight of quiet yet. They ask harmless questions. Why the bridge looks newer than the rest of the road? Why certain houses are empty but never sold? Why the forest feels closer on some streets than others? At first, people answer vaguely. Weather. Old disputes. Bad luck. But curiosity has momentum. And momentum is dangerous. One man kept asking about the teenager who disappeared. He meant well. Wanted closure. Said it wasn't healthy to pretend nothing happened. The town listened politely. Then they stopped listening altogether. He noticed small changes. His truck tire went flat twice in 1 week. His mail arrived late, then not at all. Conversations cut short when he entered a room. At night, someone knocked on his door and walked away before he could answer. The message was clear without being spoken. Eventually, he left. Packed up quietly. Didn't announce it. The town exhaled when his house went dark. After that, silence thickened. People doubled down on routine. Familiarity felt safer than truth. Because truth demands something in return. Action, acknowledgement, memory. Here, memory is the most dangerous thing of all. Everyone knows what happened isn't finished. That whatever settled into the soil, the river, the forest, is still here. Talking about it won't make it leave. Silence, at least, feels like control. So they keep it. They pass it down. They protect it like a fragile thing. Because in this town, knowing isn't the problem. Saying it is. Night arrives softly here, carried in on mist and the smell of rain-soaked earth. Streetlights flicker awake one by one, their glow smeared by fog until the roads look longer than they are. Gravel crunches under tires, then under footsteps. Sound travels differently after dark, stretched thin, distorted by moisture and trees. Most people are inside by 9. Curtains drawn, lights low, televisions murmuring more for company than entertainment. The town feels smaller at night, pulled inward, listening. That's when the sounds start. Footsteps move along the gravel roads long after traffic has stopped. Slow, even, too deliberate to be wind, too heavy to be animals. Dogs lift their heads but don't bark right away. When they do, it's hesitant, unsure. Sometimes there's a knock. Not loud, just firm enough to be heard through walls. 3 taps, a pause, then nothing. No one answers those knocks. Everyone knows better. You lie still. You wait. You let the sound pass. From the edge of town, the forest hums, a low, constant presence. Branches shift without wind. Needles brush together, whispering. If you listen too closely, you start to hear patterns where there shouldn't be any. People tell themselves it's imagination. That tired minds fill in gaps. That rain can sound like anything if you let it. Still, no one sleeps deeply. One night, a woman heard footsteps stop right outside her porch. She stood at the window, breath held, watching fog curl around the steps. The porch light flickered but stayed on. For a moment, she thought she saw a shape, taller than it should have been, standing just beyond the light's reach. She didn't open the door. She never does. By morning, wet footprints marked the gravel. They led to the porch, then stopped. No prints leading away. The sheriff called it a prank. Kids, maybe. But kids don't walk barefoot on gravel in freezing rain. Kids don't leave prints that deep. After that, more people noticed the sounds. Footsteps circling houses. Gravel shifting under unseen weight. Doors rattling slightly, as if tested. Always gentle. Never enough to force entry. What unsettled the town most was the timing. These sounds followed storms. Followed high water in the river. Followed fog thick enough to swallow the road. Some believe it's someone who never left. Others think it's the forest pressing back. No one agrees. Agreement would require discussion. Late at night, when the town holds its breath, radios stay off. Phones stay silent. People count the steps as they pass. 1, 2, 3, then gone. Morning erases most evidence. Rain smooths gravel. Wind clears scent. Life resumes. But the memory of the night lingers, sharp and unwelcome. Because footsteps mean intention. And whatever walks these roads at night knows exactly where it's going. The ocean sits just beyond the last stretch of road, hidden until it suddenly isn't. One turn, and there it is, flat, gray, endless. It doesn't roar here. It breathes. Long, slow pulls that roll in beneath the sound of rain. Locals say you can smell it before you see it. Salt, rot, old kelp baked into driftwood. The scent clings, just like memory. This town was built facing the water for a reason. Fishing once fed families. Boats lined the shore, their hulls scarred but trusted. Over time, fewer boats returned. Nets came up light. Men stopped going out as far. The tide, people said, had changed. As if tides could choose. At low water, the beach reveals things it keeps hidden most of the day. Broken crates, rusted hooks, scraps of fabric tangled in seaweed. Sometimes objects show up that no one claims. Shoes without pairs, pieces of rope cut clean through, a watch still ticking beneath sand. People avoid walking the shore alone now, especially at dawn, when fog drapes the water and the horizon disappears. Sound behaves strangely there. Waves seem closer than they are. Footsteps echo when no one else is around. Old-timers will tell you the tide returns what it's given. Not right away, not cleanly, but eventually. They say it doesn't care about truth or lies. It only remembers weight. One morning, after a week of storms, something washed up near the rocks. It drew a small crowd, quiet and tight-lipped. The sheriff arrived late. The rain had already softened edges, blurred details. Enough remained to unsettle everyone present. Official statements followed. Storm debris. Maritime waste. Nothing to worry about. The crowd nodded, but no one lingered. People went home and scrubbed their hands, even if they hadn't touched anything. After that, the tide felt closer. Waves crept higher during storms. Water pooled where it never had before. Boats broke loose more easily. One sank at the dock overnight without warning. At night, some swear they hear voices carried in on the wind. Not words, just tone. Like someone trying to speak underwater. Others report knocking sounds from beneath the pier. Slow, hollow, repeating. Fishermen stopped casting near the rocks where things surface. Children were told the beach was unsafe, even on clear days. The town adjusted, the way it always does, quietly. What unsettles people most isn't what the tide brings back. It's the timing. Always after heavy rain. Always after the river swells. As if water, in all its forms, is connected here, sharing what it knows. The ocean doesn't accuse. It doesn't explain. It simply returns fragments and waits to see who recognizes them. And every time the tide recedes, the town watches the shoreline, afraid of what memory might surface next. People do leave this town. Not all at once. Not loudly. They drift out the way fog lifts, slow, almost polite. A job offer somewhere inland. A family emergency. A need for space. The reasons sound ordinary, believable. But the packing always happens fast, as if staying one more night would mean something irreversible. Those who leave don't throw farewell parties. They load their cars before dawn, headlights cutting pale lines through mist. Engines idle softly. Doors close without slamming. Neighbors watch from behind curtains and say nothing. There's an understanding that goodbyes invite questions, and questions invite memory. The road outwinds through forest and hill, rain-slick and narrow. Cell signal fades quickly. Radios hiss, then fall silent. Some swear the trees lean closer along that stretch, branches brushing cars as they pass. Others say it's just exhaustion playing tricks. Either way, no one stops. At first, leaving feels like relief. The air dries out. Sleep comes easier. New places offer noise, light, distraction. People convince themselves the heaviness stayed behind, that the town belongs to the past now. But memory doesn't respect distance. Former residents report the same dreams. Wet gravel under bare feet. A knock at a door they don't recognize. Fog pressing against windows that shouldn't fog at all. They wake with the taste of salt in their mouths. The sound of water moving where it shouldn't be. Some try to talk about it. Friends listen politely, then change the subject. The stories don't fit anywhere else. They belong to rain and pine and silence. Without those, the words feel wrong. The town doesn't chase those who leave. It doesn't need to. Years later, something small pulls them back. A funeral, an inheritance, a road trip that takes a wrong turn. They tell themselves they're just passing through, that nothing can touch them now. The town looks smaller than they remember. Buildings sag a little more. Paint peels further. The forest stands closer. Streetlights flicker the same way they always did. The air smells exactly right and exactly wrong. People recognize them instantly. Names surface without effort. Conversations pick up where they left off, careful and shallow. No one asks why they came back. No one asks why they left. Staying even one night brings it all rushing in. Sounds, dreams, that familiar sense of being observed. The town settles around them like a coat they forgot they owned. Some leave again the next morning, shaken and quiet. Others linger, drawn by something they can't name. A sense of responsibility, of unfinished business, of belonging twisted into obligation. The forest line still waits. The river still swells after rain. The tide still brings back what it's given. And the town still listens. Those who escape far enough sometimes convince themselves it was all coincidence. Weather, isolation, stress. But when rain falls hard in places it shouldn't, when fog rolls in unexpectedly, when footsteps echo behind them on empty streets, they remember. Leaving isn't the same as escaping. Some places don't need walls or fences. They hold on through memory, through silence, through the quiet agreement not to look too closely. And once a town like this knows your name, it never really forgets it. The rain will keep falling, the forest will keep listening, and the town will keep its secrets without effort. Some places don't need to trap you. They stay with you, quietly, patiently, and long after the road disappears behind you. The Pacific Northwest remembers where you came from.